Dear beautiful people, welcome back to the Coming into Mastery video series. Today I want to speak to you about the illusion of power. That is a big one to get around on the self-realization process. This is something that many of us struggle with. Many of us feel powerless or think we need to exercise some sort of control over life. So with power comes, let's say, a certain conceptual framework. There is the idea that someone is in power and someone is not in power. Now you can see this in a sense that people want to be rewarded for the correct behavior in life. What is the correct behavior? They believe, of course, it is what gets them rewarded. But the whole idea of being rewarded comes from the idea that there is someone there who can give you what you can't give yourself. So this whole system of obedience that we have created actually carries no real power, because that power is delegated. You see, when we speak about authority, we speak about someone is authorized to do something, right? But that someone who's authorized to do something has been authorized by someone who has, that's what we believe, the actual power to authorize that person. So you have authorized politicians, religious leaders to speak on your behalf, to make choices for you. Well, why have you authorized them to do this? Because many of us believe that we are not complete within, and that we do not have sufficient energy to manifest the reality that we want to manifest. And this is where the illusion lies. Now we believe there's a system that takes the power away from the people, but at the same time the people have delegated their choices to the system. Now, if we fight the system, we still believe we can get something from the system by fighting it. If we are obedient to the system, we still think we can get something from the system by being obedient. All of this creates the illusion of power. All of this creates the illusion of not having sufficient energy. And this is where the trap lies. Now, if we go deep, it's going to get a little bit uncomfortable to our spiritual egos, you see. Now, it is a valid experience in the universe to say, I want to know what it's like to delegate my sovereignty. It cannot be delegated though. We can just pretend that we delegate it. So we can pretend we delegate it to someone that we perceive as an authority figure. But he has no real authority except the one that we delegate to them, right? So we delegate that. Why would we delegate that? Because we do not trust ourselves. We do not trust ourselves to make sane choices. We do not trust ourselves that we could actually create a life that is representative of who we are. So because we do not trust ourselves, we delegate what we perceive as power to people, and then we expect that we can trust them if we don't even trust ourselves. This like system of mistrust starts with ourselves. So for the one who's coming into mastery, it is not about getting something from a belief that is based around power. The powerful, the so-called powerful, can't give you what you want, right? Because your very belief in their power means you have delegated authority to someone else. And even if you would overthrow a system, even if you get rid of the powerful, in that sense you're then still playing the power game. So you think you need to get rid of someone to be fully in your energy. Now this is something I had clarified with someone of high intelligence and wisdom. We had a little debate on this, and he was saying that what we're seeing right now in the society, yes, there is a tendency right now to a totalitarian system, but it's because people delegate their sovereignty to someone else. But they're still sovereign, you see, because the act of delegation is a sovereign act, even though they're in denial of it. Now, those of us who choose consciously to be sovereign, we choose enlightenment, we choose self-realization, we choose coming into our own energy, and we choose not to delegate to anyone any longer. And that means we want to create our own reality without committing violence to another being, very important, but we want to create our own reality, to be fully in our own energy and to stop delegating to any authority. Because the act of delegation is an act of fear and mistrust already. It is fearing the inner creator. It's your ego fearing the inner creator that is you. It is, again, the mistrust that you do not allow yourself to make wise choices. You think you're incapable of making wise choices. Ultimately, to be a sovereign being means to go beyond the power game. It means to come into your own energy and ultimately transcend the 3D experience and act from higher intelligence, and even energetically escape the trappings of what you perceive currently as limitation. So for the soon-to-be master, for the disciple who enters mastery, it is important to understand that those who choose to delegate sovereignty will experience you as violent if you ask them to be sovereign, but you will experience them as violent if they ask you to be obedient. Therefore, you come into your own sovereignty, into your own energy, create your own reality. Though the political situation is in a certain way, it is important to understand that when you are fully yourself, you are the representation of sovereignty. So there's nothing you need to do but be yourself fully. That's already the alternative to the system. To be as free as you can be by acting from freedom, from sovereignty. So to choose sovereignty is the path to self-realization. So look where you still trap yourself. Where do you wish that some enlightened master would pull you out of the limited state of consciousness? Where do you wish some angel would relieve you of some circumstance? Where do you wish a God that you believe to be external would intervene on your behalf? All of these beliefs are beliefs of not being sovereign. So therefore enlightenment cannot happen. In order to realize that you're sovereign, you need to start making choices and act that way. And you need to allow to come into your own energy. When you're still playing the power game, that means you try to control the controllers, you're still being controlled. Instead, we focus on our creative ability and create the new world, and the new world is one of sovereign beings who address each other as equals. But it's not a world of leaders. It's not a world of institutions. It's not a world of governing structures. It is a world of everyone coming into their sovereignty. And if this is what you want, this is what you need to focus on coming into sovereignty, but not fighting those who do not choose to be sovereign. You see, this is their sovereign choice not to be sovereign. Because it is a legit experience in this universe to say, I'll be obedient and I see what happens. For those of us who choose sovereignty, we need to understand that when we get entangled into these energies of conflict, it's actually a distraction. It's a distraction from your own path of realization. Be who you are, say what you say, take action as a representation of your being, but do not expect anyone to change. Do not expect anyone to listen to you. Do not expect you can convince a single one. And if you're dependent on convincing someone, you still believe you cannot be in your own energy, and you still believe that you need to convince those that you perceive as ignorant, so they don't become a threat to you, which is still the idea of I'm powerless. So it's still the illusion of power. Come into your own energy, claim sovereignty, and realization occurs. And to understand that the manifestation that we currently experience, let's say what we might perceive subjectively as a mess right now, it has come to pass because people have delegated for centuries. If people wouldn't have delegated their sovereignty for centuries, the power structures that are now in place, the controllers that are now in the position that they are, wouldn't have been in the position that they are right now. If every being claims sovereignty, the system is done from one day to another. But many will not choose to, and you cannot make them. They need to experience what it's like to be obedient, and what the consequences of that choice are, what the consequences are of not choosing to be a conscious creator in this life, what the consequences are of acting from fear and choosing obedience. Now, for those of you, again, who are on the path of spiritual realization, I would strongly recommend to make use of the time that you have right now, of the time that you have through isolation, through sitting at home, is to go as deeply into yourself as you can, to allow any transformation to take place that wants to take place. And if you truly want to make a change within, let's say, the 3D realm, it is of tremendous importance to realize yourself first and not to act from incomplete knowledge. So if you deep down know you are here to come into mastery this lifetime, then it's about focusing on that realization, because you will be of much greater service to people when that realization is complete. So to drop the idea of that anything that you need could be given to you from someone who has more than you or is more than you is still a trap. And you're not solving this by trying to get the energy of someone else. You see, those who are currently in the situation of decision maker for a vast majority of people, they try to gain the energy of the people, and the people try to gain the energy that they feel they're lacking from those who are in the elite. So in that sense, it's a circle where everyone traps themselves. Be in your own energy. Be your own autonomous source of creation, and the struggle for power will cease. And the human drama will cease to be attractive to you. Contemplate about that, my friends. Be well.